It's just every billionaire now that runs a big tech company is just Lex Luthor. They're going to space. They're building like crazy devices that are probably going to destroy humanity. They're like best friends with the president of the United States.
They were confined to their industries. You know what I'm saying? Like Rockefeller did oil. Like that was what he did. You know, Carnegie did steel. JP Morgan was finance. Whatever. Vanderbilt was rails. Now it's just like there's just so much power, so much fluidity to go across that it's like, you know, Zuck does whatever he wants. Basically, they do whatever they want. Like they're not confined to anything. What do you use Grammarly for these days with all the AI that's available?
I didn't realize anyone was still writing anything. I haven't written anything in months. I don't plan on it. I'm hoping that if all goes well, within 3 years, I forget how to read.
That's product market fit.
Product market fit.
Product market fit.
I called it the product market fit question.
Product market fit.
Product market fit.
Product market fit. Product market fit.
I mean, the name of the show is Product Market Fit.
Do you think the Product Market Fit show has product market fit? Because if you do, then there's something you just have to do. You have to take out your phone. You have to leave the show 5 stars. It lets us reach more founders and it lets us get better guests. Thank you.
Jack, welcome back to the show, dude.
Thanks for having me. Again, once more, 3 times the charm. I think by the 4th or 5th one, I'll be canceled. But
well, you know, this is it reminds me the other day, we were looking at some startup that has their own like cameras and like parking tickets and stuff. And somebody was like, you know, I don't really get how people get caught by the same speeding camera over and over. Like you'd think you'd learn where they are and then you'd slow down before you get them. And I'm like, dude, you're looking at the guy right here. Like I just go fast every time and I just make the same mistake over and over. And so here you are back on the show.
I know. I was just in Italy this past week and the person I was staying with told me, they were like, hey, watch out. There's a lot of speeding cameras. And I was like, I'll be responsible. And then, of course, I just was like halfway through this 3.5, 4-hour drive. I was just flying. and I was like, I'm going to pay $800 worth of fines in Italy. And
so we're the kind of people we don't learn from our mistakes. We just do it over and over and hope that things changes. And it's a great way to be. So, dude, last time we did the news episode. We started with your kind of favorite male superhero founder, who's Adam Neumann, obviously. Now we're going to start with the female version, the female superwoman, superhero, whatever we want to talk about. Let me put it this way. Let's say you were today starting a company that was going to do like blood testing. You know what I mean? Like something around that. Like who would be your favorite advisor? Like the number 1 pick?
I mean, other than Henry Kissinger, that's number 1. Number 2 in close contention has to be old Elizabeth Holmes, who, by the way, you know, we've obviously given Adam Neumann a lot of credit on this show together because he made out like a bandit despite defrauding just inordinate amount of people. However, Elizabeth Holmes may be the greatest to ever do it. It's a close first and second. Again, depending on the week, I go back. Once she started she married this other rich guy, like it's not the Hilton hotels, it's like the other big.
It's Billy Evans, right? You're talking about Billy Evans? The guy who
started is he the Hyatt Hotel heir?
I don't know who he is. All I can tell you, he's the guy that's starting this startup. So I didn't even realize when I read this article, I was like, her partner. I felt like I was like, oh, it's somebody that worked at Theranos. No, it's like her life partner. They're not married. They have kids together.
I mean, she's in jail. I swear, the guy that she's married to, this guy's like the heir of a hotel fortune. That's how he made his money, which, by the way, is really, really funny for her to be like, you know what, I can't make money anymore. I've defrauded, so I have to go back to the only option left in the book, which is marry rich.
Yeah, so it's family inheritance. It's family inheritance, which was your advice, like first podcast you ever did. That was your number 1 piece of advice.
I was my number 1 advice. By the way, people would tell her it couldn't be done. They would say, Elizabeth, you just defrauded all of these people. You're famous for being a horrible person. No one's going to want to marry you. Your last boyfriend was a gargoyle who just is like an abusive Bangladeshi gargoyle, man. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then somehow she bagged this guy. And to be honest, it's the most impressive come up I've ever seen.
And it was at her lowest point. Like at her lowest point. You got to wonder. But then this guy marries her and then waits many years. Like, but people have forgotten now. Now is time to do exactly what she was doing. It's just the whole absurdity of it is too much, man.
It doesn't make any sense. And this guy decided, like, he was like, how how mentally unwell are you that you decide that you're going to get into bed with a criminal? She's going to jail. She's in jail for 11 years. And this guy was like, this is the best I can do.
Well, at very least, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to pull on her knowledge as an advisor because this is an area she knows about. So, well, that's how we started out. You know what I mean? That's where we're starting. Let's move on to something that's a bit more like meaningful, impactful. That was just funny. But so OpenAI bought, as probably everybody knows now, bought Jony Ive startup for like $6.5 billion. And nobody knows what they're going to build. But there's like obviously a bunch of people guessing. And the big, like the number one thing, some like kind of input output thing, like so you can interact with AI. There's this picture of a button that came out. And I guess the idea is it just records everything that you do. And it's just kind of always there, always on, like a portable Echo, I guess, as I could think about it.
Dude, it's going to be her. Remember the movie Her? That's 100% what's happening here. It's just her. Because do you know, like, I mean, you've seen all these like photos of people on Reddit being like, my only friend is OpenAI. My only friend is ChatGPT. That's what this is. I think they're just going to start, like, people are going to start just chatting and having like a parasocial relationship with.
I could see it. I mean, dude, I talk to, like, I don't, not really personal stuff, but I talk to ChatGPT like a lot, man, like all the time. Like any single question I have basically goes out to ChatGPT. But I don't really understand like this device because I don't know. I feel like, you have so many mics, like your phone has a mic, your laptop has a mic, like, everything around you already has a mic. I guess it's an always on mic and always on speaker, but seems like, carrying a whole new thing just for that. $6.5 billion. I don't know.
Or do you think they're going to compete against iPhone? Because that's the other angle is maybe they're going to do one of these like more niche, weird devices like the Her thing, or just, like an Echo that can respond to you and help you out, like an Apple Watch you talk to or whatever. But I feel like the move, although this seems way too ambitious and like kind of probably a horrible decision, is like, what if they go make their decision. Yeah, they go compete with like iPhone and Apple and try and build
just like a new phone?
Yeah. What if they go that? They try and build like a full-on device.
That actually, I hadn't thought about that before, and it's like so stupid, it might be smart sort of thing, but like just to go on that, you could argue that what I've been thinking a lot about is like AI's biggest impact is actually at the interface level. Like really, that's the biggest thing, is just the idea that you still need software to carry out business logic, to like do deterministic functions. But what's nice now is like just like the GUI, the user interface, you have Windows, you get to click on Windows and close Windows and whatever. And, then with mobile, you get to tap on like buttons. Now you can just use language, natural language. And the reality is, whatever phone you want to look at today wasn't set up for that. And I'm sure they can make changes to the OS over time, and they probably will, to adapt. But you've got something old that's adapting to something new versus what if you started from scratch and try to replace the phone? It's still seems like very far-fetched, but it's an interesting idea.
I mean, maybe they have the money to at least start exploring it. Like if they wanted to start up like their own version of Bell Labs and just experiment with stuff like that, they have the money to do it. And they have now the design guru to just make a bunch of things that are really like playful and nice and fit, like have like a really strong emotional attachment, like devices that have really strong emotional attachment to people. They could do it now, which is like maybe the darkest timeline. It's just every billionaire now that runs a big tech company is just Lex Luthor. They're going to space. They're building like crazy devices that are probably going to destroy humanity. They're like best friends with the president of the United States. They're like whispering into people's ears as like they're on like in front of the United Nations.
But I don't know, man. That Elon Trump thing might be like he's pissed off about this new bill. Like I don't even know if that friendship's gonna last.
Maybe not.
It is true. I will say, like one thing that strikes me is you look at the old guard of like really rich, and you think like Rockefeller, Carnegie, JP Morgan, whatever. Like they were confined to their industries. You know what I'm saying? Like Rockefeller did oil. Like that was what he did. Carnegie did steel, JP Morgan was finance, whatever. Vanderbilt was rails. Now, it's just like there's just so much power, so much fluidity to go across that it's like, Zuck does whatever he wants. Like, basically, they do whatever they want. Like, they're not confined to anything. So they end up, and it's like Musk being obviously probably the best example of it. It's like, I want to own space and all cars and all like electricity, like whatever. I'll just take it all.
And there's a team of 800 genius Indian guys that I can hire immediately to start executing on my plans because I have $1 trillion at my disposal. Like I have more money than most of like the top 25 nations in the world. Big more money than their GDP, which is hilarious. And so then they're just like, let's just go. I guess we're just going to go build rockets and headsets for the military. At what point do we just give control of the United States government to Palmer Luckey?
Well, I'll tell you, I know Bernie Sanders has a very elegant solution to this. He just said people just should not have more than $1 billion. That's it. You don't need an over $1 billion. So like as soon as you hit $1 billion, like you're done. You're out of the game.
I feel like $1 billion is probably enough, although you could do a lot of if you have Elon Musk level money, I always thought it would be fun. I don't think these people sometimes do cool enough things, like to buy a ton of land and then just erect gigantic marble statues of myself in the middle of the forest. Just a 300-foot tall statue of myself in Wyoming on and then just leave it there.
But see, this is why people like you and I, we don't have $1 billion.
That's probably
we don't deserve it, dude. We don't.
That's probably a good point. You could rebuild. This is dark. You could rebuild any structure you wanted with Elon Musk level money. And he's not doing that.
He's wasting his time, basically.
He's wasting his time.
Such a big opportunity. You know who else doesn't, let's just, weird segue, but who doesn't have it all an opportunity, in my opinion, anymore, but just raised $1 billion? Grammarly. Grammarly just raised $1 billion in, everything about it was weird. It's like non-dilutive funding. It's basically a loan from General Catalyst. Apparently they've been doing this before, so maybe it's not anything new. The article did talk about they don't have to mark their investment down. Like Grammarly doesn't have to take a new valuation now, which was the line that struck out at me because I'm thinking, what do you need Grammarly for? I like the product, nothing against them, but what do you need? What do you use Grammarly for these days with all the AI that's available?
I didn't realize anyone was still writing anything. I haven't written anything in months. I don't plan on it. I'm hoping that if all goes well, within 3 years, I forget how to read. And Jony Ive or whoever and Sam Altman come up with that device I just yell at, and it just AI flops into all my social accounts for me.
Do you write your LinkedIn posts?
I do. Ironically, I don't use AI for any content stuff.
It's still not. It's funny. That's still one of the big tests of it for me. Is it's still not there, and the content's not that good. It's not I'm not that good of a writer, but it's really bad.
It's really bad at making good content.
Yes.
It's good at structuring stuff. It's pretty good for coming up with premises. If I was to use AI for anything, I might use it for premises for content. But this whole Grammarly thing, man, dude, did you see there's a bit of all this data is coming out on 40% of companies have 0 to 6 months of runway. The amount of companies IPOs that have all the IPOs this year for big tech companies have been down rounds at IPO.
Oh shit.
And it is kind of looking not that great for the tech industry. The sense I'm getting right now is what it feels like is that the hyped up bubble of 2022 when venture capital grew 25% in a year and all those new fund managers, emerging fund managers raised their first fund and started deploying capital. All this money flooded into tech and it isn't working out. That isn't, I think that's just the sense. It didn't go well. Not for Mistral, though. I'm sure.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, come on. You can't. Don't worry. No, I'm not taking it personally. No, but I don't know, man. It's really weird, right? Because on the one hand, there is all this stuff about, not a good time. And then, the market's at all-time highs. Like Duolingo, for example, which every day is on the top of my list of how big of an idiot I am for not buying it. It's just absolutely destroying everything. And so I don't know what to make of that. You know what I mean? What I can't really explain it. It's like a tale of two worlds.
Maybe it's the winners are winning and the losers are losing. The winners were priced in, but then there's the Palantir thing. I remember I was looking at Palantir's valuation to revenue multiple, and it's 180. It's I was thinking about it. This is the math I did. They make less money in 90 days than Amazon makes in the first 6 hours of every day. I'm not kidding.
Right.
They made a 1 point whatever billion this last quarter. Amazon makes that in 6 hours every day, and they're worth 1/3 of what Amazon.
Oh my God.
Or what I forget the exact. They're a $300 billion market cap right now, and so I was sitting there and I'm looking at this math. I was so Amazon is worth less than 10x Palantir right now and makes 150 times as much money. And then people are like Palantir's a buy. I'm like, where does it go from here? Like, what if they do like $20 billion a year, are they worth $3 trillion? I was like, dude, that's more. Are they worth the same as Microsoft and Apple? Like, what am I missing?
But it's the same like with Tesla, man. Like Tesla, so many times like this is so overvalued, and like if I would have shorted it, which I'll never short something because it just takes too much guts that I clearly don't have. But I could have been blown out many times on it because it was and it probably still is worth more than like all other car companies combined and all this stuff. I don't know, man. I don't know how to make sense.
Because then the people are like, it's a technology company, and I go, or like it's a software company at the end of the day. And I go, well, kind of, but also, is it really a software company first and foremost? I have this, I don't know. There's a lot of things going on. Like, yeah, it's worth $1 trillion. Its PE ratio is 189.
Oh, okay.
Seems maybe a little off. So I just listen. What do I know at the end of the day? But if there's all of this, and that isn't to say that like tech hasn't provided like printed money and created so much value and disproportionately changed the economy, because it has. But it does feel like we're in this time. Like if you remember, like if you're ever present or you've been a part of every crypto boom, like when crypto's at its peak, like when it was at 20K in 2018, people are like, it's going to 100. And I'm like, it just went up 30x. Like I feel like how much farther can it go? But everyone around you is like, it's not stopping. And then like 2 weeks later, they're all homeless. And that kind of feels like what's going on in tech right now, where everyone's like, because there's been so much success, they just assume that everything is going to be successful and they just ignore fundamentals.
I think that's probably true. But Bitcoin's a weird one, man. Bitcoin, like now it's at 110 or whatever. It's like, I've just never bought Bitcoin because I don't own gold either, you know what I mean? For like the same fundamental reason. But it's gone through enough like recessions that I'm like, maybe this thing is kind of like for real. I was like in the Charlie Munger camp, and I'm like, maybe you just didn't get it.
I know. Bitcoin's been my saving grace. It was the only good financial decision. It's how I made all of my money. It's just on buying Bitcoin 8 years ago.
Okay, so let's move over to this company, beautiful company, once worth over $1 billion. Microsoft-backed Builder AI is running out of money. They borrowed a playbook from you, didn't they? Like they're doing kind of what you wanted to do or what you're doing.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm an investor and I'm a happy investor in them. They lied about revenue, which I don't like. But what I do like about them, and this was my idea, they had an AI company, quote unquote, using big finger quotes here for everyone can't see me right now, but they were supposedly using AI to build people's apps for them. But in reality, they just had like 700 Indian guys in a basement somewhere building products for people. And they raised almost $500 million from Microsoft, from Qatar, Wealth Fund.
See, this is the theme. Like the bigger the brand name, it seems like the less diligence that gets done. This is back to your like Theranos, Kissinger, and whatever story.
Like remember when JP Morgan bought that company that had those just like 7 million fake emails? And I'm like, you couldn't send 10 emails out? You didn't even need to send like 1,000. You could have just 100. You would have been like, oh, this is a fake email list. But yeah, so this company just lied about how much money they were making, lied about how their AI model was good and building products for people. It wasn't. And then I don't know what they're thinking though, because like when you lie about revenue, eventually that comes out. Like very quickly that comes out to your investors, to everyone in your team realizing you're almost out of money because your burn rate, the whole team's planning your burn rate around the fact that you say you're making X amount, but you're not. So then you're like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, I just don't understand these people where they lie so much. Like it was like 30% of what they were saying they were making. And I'm like, that's such a lie. It's so easy to get caught. I almost have less of a problem with using all the Indian guys to build shit because like if the product's good, I guess you're just like a glorified software engineering firm.
I'll tell you this. I didn't realize before doing these news things how much stuff actually happened like in Startup Land in just like a month's time. Because the other kind of this is like as big of a fraud as I think you could get. You talked about this one, so I'm curious to hear the whole story. But crypto founder found alive after faking death to pump a meme coin, which is just, like it's an insane of a headline as you could get.
The idea that you think you're going to get away with this, I don't understand. Because also he didn't leave his parents' house, which I thought was maybe he faked his own suicide and then was like, I'm going to hide out in my dad's guest bedroom.
What was the play? Like, what was the idea?
I think I think it was like, he built a meme coin, and in the meme coin, like for whatever, I don't even really know. I couldn't ever get to the bottom of why this was a good idea. My original assumption, based on what I read, was, oh, he did this because he like was in crippling debt and committed fraud, wire fraud, or owed the IRS $8 million was my assumption. But then everything people was like, oh, he's trying to use his suicide to pump the crypto, which I was like, that's a fun marketing tactic.
Oh my God.
Also, what do you tell your dad? Your dad's like, hey, I see that there's an obituary in the local paper for you. And he's
like over
listen,
dinner?
Dad.
Like, dude, like what is it?
Like, Dad, you don't understand me. You don't believe in me. Like, just imagine an angsty teenager getting yelling at his dad because he doesn't see his vision.
Have you seen the website, by the way, pump.fun? You know that website?
Pump.fun. Yeah. I remember when that came out.
It's I heard about it a few months ago, and it's freaking insane, dude.
Oh my God. I've thought many times about creating a meme coin. I don't have it in me though, because I feel
you should
bad
do
about
it. You should start. I mean, you should put your fund that you talked about, Jabroni Capital, that only invests in huge scams or whatever it was. You can tell me more about it and make it a meme coin. Is that not a smart idea?
I guess. I just feel like all meme coins are scams, and I had PTSD from being involved in a crypto where it ended up being kind of fraudulent. I whistleblew when I was 20 on a cryptocurrency I work for. And the idea of doing another one, the only way I could consciously do this was if I just told everyone this is a scam.
Yes. No, that's how I think you should do it. Like, the whole thing should be satire and it should be very in your face. And like sometimes those things still work. Like, I mean, Doge.
I'm going to sell at the top
Yes.
coin.
Yes, exactly.
The second this hits a $30 million market cap, I'm selling my entire position.com. It's not a bad
Could be
idea.
it. Could be it, man. More I think
I'm
about
going to be honest, I might invest in that.
See? You can't tell people where the top is. Just you'll sell at the top, and then everybody's just trying to find that top, which is the same thing as anything else at that point, really.
And then the forum is just like, it can go higher. This isn't the top. The top isn't it. It's like, it's worth $80 million. There's like, we're not even close to it.
Yeah, it sounds easy. Like, it's probably not that easy, but it sounds easy.
Yeah. I mean, I know a number of people who scam people out with their own crypto coin. I mean, it's very doable.
But if you
we could do
donate
it.
all the money to charity, does that make it good?
Great point. I wouldn't do that because I'm not a good person, but I like the idea. The energy behind that. What if I donate 1% of the money to charity?
You've got to find that threshold where you become a good person.
What if I just do like the giving pledge? Like, after I've bought 8 boats and done like an island.
Once my finance and all my children's finances are secured.
Once my children's finances are secured, I just give it all away. Once I leave the $180 million home to my children in the Hamptons, and I'm like, oh, they'll be fine forever. It's at that point I decide to give all my money away. After I like destroy half of the economies in Africa and like fund a bunch of like Bangladeshi sweatshops, it's at that point I'm giving away all my money.
Well, you have to, because the reality is your kid's future is not looking so bright. We just saw this headline a couple days ago. AI may already be shrinking entry-level jobs in tech. Apparently, entry-level jobs from big tech, like big tech's hiring like 25% less this year than last.
Dude, there will be no jobs left.
Except for venture capital, right? I think we established
except for venture capital. And by the way, if you need an intern, I'm getting desperate at this point. You let me know. I'm planning on interning. I did apply for an internship at Sequoia like a year ago, and my application was so unhinged. I got her.
Did you get a reply?
Oh, I did. I emailed one of the partners. They got back to me like, hey, this is a really interesting profile. We'd love to talk with you. In the end of I ended the message by being like, I'm willing to do whatever physical challenges that this requires. I could do 25 push-ups and I have a green belt in karate. I will fight the other interns applying for this role in hand-to-hand combat.
And they replied to that? Like, this is interesting. No way.
I do think it would be very funny to LARP as like a venture capital intern for like a month or two, but not do any work, like be the worst intern and just film the entire thing. Either way, back to your point, the amount of companies that are laying people off, like the amount of people I know that are trying to get a job right now. And I don't know if you have friends that have been like unemployed for like
I don't have any friends.
6 months, a year. Okay, that checks out. But dude, it's rough out there. The amount I saw a headline we were saying earlier before we started this that there's less entry-level jobs or a higher unemployment rate for software engineer grads than art majors at school, which maybe the art majors are going and working at Starbucks, which...
Yeah, that doesn't count.
That doesn't count, but like, if that's true, I need to look into the veracity of this claim. It's looking real bad for every...
You know what? Actually, tangent, because you know what? Podcasts have become like the thing. Like these days, it's like you can't trust the media, but you can trust podcasts. And sometimes I'm like, man, a podcast is like, frankly, and I'm saying this on our podcast, but like we can say, I mean, and I really try to, guardrail and say the right things, but you can really say anything you want on a podcast. So I just as a tangent, because as you're making claims that you're not that confident about it and then making whole explanations about it, it just came to mind that, every podcaster can do this. And I'm so surprised I don't understand why people will be willing to be like, oh, I heard this on a podcast. And then it's just like, it's fact. Oh, I can't find it on the internet anywhere. But like, XYZ said it on their podcast. So like, it's got to be true.
I love the idea of spreading fake news. Oh my God. Dude, 1 day ago, U.S. computer engineering grads report a 7.5% unemployment rate, the third highest among all majors, more than twice art history's 3%, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York.
Wow. It's not looking good, man. You know what's hilarious is literally maybe 5 years ago, you would have asked me, hey, what is the best place to go as like I would have been like, dude, software, forget it. Like, I'm so pissed I didn't go to software. Like, those are the guys I know making the most money. Would have been the worst advice possible.
You know who has the best the best unemployment rate, meaning like the lowest? Nutritional science majors, 0.4%. Which, by the way, I'm assuming that just means they're telling everybody to like eat liver and like that's what they mean by nutritional science.
All right, well, look, let's end it there. We like to end it with kind of maybe a little moral, a little something, little learning, and I think that it is all jobs will be gone. So if you're not a founder, I mean, maybe you could be a founder. That seems legit, and if not, like just be a VC. You know what I mean? Just do it, because everything else
for
is
sure.
over.
A worst case scenario, just be an investor. You don't need a job. Just give people money.
85% of people who listen to the show just started listening to it this year. You're probably one of those people. In fact, the odds are 85%. Guess what? You need to go back because there are over 100 other episodes that you need to check out that are just as good, if not better, than this one. Don't miss out.